how is that? Well, let me say this first and foremost. Jesus' family eventually believed him and chose to follow him. How many of you knew that? Jesus' family eventually believed him. I want you to picture a cross, and I want you to picture Jesus hanging on it and dying. Around this cross, there's not many people that love him. Most everybody else has gotten scared and run off, but there's one guy named John, and there's some women. And among these women is his mother. And Jesus looks down at John, and he looks down at his mom, and he says, "Mother, behold your son. Son, behold your mother." And he handed off the care for his mom to a disciple that he loved that was in his family. He handed off the care for his blood mom, physical mom, to a member of his spiritual family. I'm sure that was popular as well. And there's some wonderful traditions about John and Mary's relationship in the years that followed and the things that they did together for the kingdom. But it is undoubtable that John took her to raise and took her into his home. That's undoubtable. Acts 1. All the disciples and the followers of Jesus upon his resurrection are meeting in an upper room to hear news. Guess who's there? His brothers are there. Look in Acts 1. The epistles of Jude and James are written by these brothers. Probably the same brothers that tried to get him to go public when he wasn't prepared to do so. Jesus' family eventually believed. It took his death to do it, but it took his death for us too, didn't it? Listen to me. This is what it all boils down to this morning. The family is the mission through which God enacts his mission. If you want your take-home point, you want to write this down. If you don't get anything else from this morning, I want you to get this. The mission of the family is that the family is the mission. The mission of the family is that the family is the mission. Think that through. The Christian family is a mission force. Family membership is the one thing that ties us all together. I got a challenge for you. I challenged the first service. Try to think of something with our little tried expressions. We all bleed red. In the dark, we're all the same color, right? I'm not saying that those aren't true. I'm just saying they're kind of worn out. We need some new ones. But you try to find a single situation to where what ties all of humanity together, and there are some definitive things that do that, are not related around the concept of God putting us in a family. Right? I'm convinced that everything that ties humanity together is rooted in this concept of the family as instituted by God. And the things that divide us are outside of those family concepts. Go find out. See if I'm wrong. What ties us to a biological family? Blood, DNA, paternal transference of traits, right? What ties us to the spiritual family? Blood, DNA, the transference of the pure blood of Jesus to our account for the cost of our sin, and the God himself instilling himself in us by giving us his Spirit to change us from the inside out, to totally replicate himself and reinventing us. Right? I was in here speaking the other week about how we need volunteers in the children's ministry and the family ministries. To be totally candid, I was really disappointed with the return on that. Kind of stunk. But that's not what I want to talk about. What I do want to talk about is the idea of a point that I made to you that day. Chili and I love one another. We love our kids more than they know. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to kill them, don't mean I don't love them. But we came to a reality here recently. It was like we looked at each other, we looked at our kids, we looked at each other, and we said, you know what? We don't have it in us to be everything our kids need. We don't. We don't. We have personality issues. We have spiritual giftedness issues. We have weaknesses, frailties, innate things about us that mean that we need help with our children. Now, I don't believe much of what Hillary Clinton says. And the statement with which she made this, I don't believe this either. But in God's economy, it does take a village to raise a kid. It takes the family of God to raise a kid. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you that I know that my daughter and my son can look into the faces of other mentors who are following Jesus with everything they've got, and they're leaning in to provide what I can't provide as the father to my own kid. and as the mother to our own kids. Now, you process that for a minute. You talk about breaking your pride down real quick. I want to thank you for doing that, those of you that are. And I want you to realize that we're all in the same boat. Thank God for teachers and counselors and coaches and da-da-da-da-da. Thank God for Sunday school teachers and volunteers and da-da-da-da-da. Now, you say, what does that have to do with me and what does it have to do with us this morning? I want you to do this. Are you a husband? Are you a wife? Are you someone's child? Are you single? Are you an orphan? Are you a widow? Are you a widower? Have I hit everyone? Is everybody in this room a part of at least one of these little subgroupings of humanity? If you are, raise your hands. What did I miss? Theoretically, I shouldn't have missed anybody. Now look around. Look at each other. Look at each other. Don't be shy. Don't be coy. Look at each other. Are you hearing impaired? Look at each other. All right, behold your family. This is your family. We all know who our literal family is. This is your spiritual, literal family. Now visualize the community outside. Right? Your workplace, your schools, your home, your neighborhood. Right? Okay? Behold your family potentially, the vision, the mission, the kingdom, the purpose of why we're here. You are never too young, and you never age out of being in the family in both senses. That's our call. In the 70s, the Marshall football team went down in a plane crash. Pretty much destroyed their entire athletic program. How many of you are aware of the story? Okay, it was almost like a phoenix story. The phoenix from the ashes came back, and the point of it all is, as the worship team comes, is that they had to do something to bring life back to that West Virginia area and to bring life back to this athletic program in this community, this college community. And so they had a statement. They hired the guy. He came in, and I forgot his name already. And he says to his community, "We are Marshall." And people all around the world, especially with the release of that movie in the last few years, have picked up that concept. If you go into a Chapin athletic endeavor, prior to it being a law, I'm just kidding. You'll see, we are Chapin. Based on what we've talked about here this morning, there's something I want you to walk out of here with today. Let's see if you get it. Based on everything we've talked about up to this point and what God is hopefully doing in your heart, let me ask you this. We are what? We are the family. We are, nobody's going to believe that. You don't even believe it. We are the family. Sec 2. The mission is the family. The mission is the family. We are, the mission is, who's in the family? Everybody. You don't age out, you're never too young to get in. If you're alive, you're in. And if you were alive and in spiritually and you go on to meet Christ, you're still in. All right? So the challenge for this morning is you say, Stuart, normally you have action steps. I normally do. Today I don't really. Because everything I've talked about today is kind of philosophical. It's sort of conceptual. Not a whole lot of action steps per se, but I do have one thing I want you to do for me. The ministries of this church, through the worship efforts, through the deacons, through the teams, through everything else that's going on, through the specific family ministry vision, through those of you that are going out on the weekends and feeding and helping kids like you did yesterday, and putting furniture in homes, whatever. The family ministry efforts of this church is shrinking hell. And we want to tell you about how that's happening. We want to show you what God is doing. If you're interested in hearing action steps based on what I'm talking about today, say, Stuart, so what now what? What do I do? You always say that, so what now what? Take your connection card, flip it over, take your pen, write March 4th. That's it. March 4th, and give me a count of how many people I got to feed, and how many kids we got to care for, so that we can talk about what this looks like with meat on the bones. This morning, we talked about a Bachelor of Arts degree concept. Let's go to tech school, and let's see it work. Let's talk about how it works. You guys understand the difference? Philosophy this morning. Theology this morning. Methodology March the 4th. Right on there. Stuart, I'm available March the 4th. I want to hear more about what we can do to be in partnership as a family member to the families of God and to the families in our community. And we'll start talking to you about some cool things that God's already doing and the ways that you can be a part of that, or maybe bring some new ideas into that. It'll be quick. We'll be done by around 2:15. We're going to provide the food, low impact. Just sign up. March 4th, I'm bringing this many. Here's how much food I need, and here's how much child care I need. That's your only action step. Unless, of course, you sat here this morning and you said, man, I'm not even a part of a family, not spiritually. And really got a terrible family physically. Is there anything that you can do? Yeah, there is. We'll start by praying together and let me tell you how much I love you, and more importantly, how valuable you are to God. And that He sacrificed His only Son just for you. Maybe today is the day you can break through. Break through out of the past and be welcomed into this adoptive family of God that's impossible to understand and irreplaceable. We'd love to have you. Maybe you need a church home. Maybe you need baptism. I don't know what you need. God does. I'll be right here. I'm not going to just as I am you to death. It ain't how I'm wired. But if God's moving your heart and you want to make a choice and you need my help, I'll be right here. I'll be happy to make it. But let me just encourage you to write March 4th on that. All of you are part of the family, yes? Then we can all find out more about what God's doing to reach families and what you can do to help.